in order to remove the caliper to replace the rotor, you can see you have this hard brake line that goes to this little metal tab here that connects to your spindle. This is a 12mm bolt that holds that on. The only issue is that along with the brake line, you also have this wire that goes to your wheel speed sensor right here. So what I found is the easiest way to do this is to disconnect the wheel speed sensor here, and then there's these two little plastic tabs that you can open up as well to remove this wire. And then you can remove this whole thing as one without worrying about putting stress on the wire to the wheel speed sensor, the hard line and the soft line for the brake lines. Just finished putting this side back together. When I put the rotor on, I did put one of the studs back on here because, as you can see, it is kind of loose since you don't use a screw to hold the rotor to the hub, so it's helpful doing that. Yeah, so I basically just went in reverse order of showing how I took everything off. I put the caliper on, I threaded the caliper bolts in back here, but I didn't torque them down and get everything back together. It's kind of a good idea to just make sure your pads will actually fit in here, because you don't want to get all this stuff back on and then realize like you didn't push your pistons out enough or something and you can't fit the pads in. So I always just check that the pads will fit, and then you can start torquing everything down. So for example, these 17mm that hold the caliper on back here, I torqued those to 91 foot-pounds. Something you guys might be noticing is I have a clip on the top and the bottom. From the factory, you actually only have one clip. I don't remember if you put it top or bottom, but we had one like come off one time, which I'm not even sure how that happened, but due to that, I just started using two, and I haven't had that problem since. And then yeah, just push these slide bolts in from this way, put these cotter pins back in, and then yeah, just plugged the wheel speed sensor back in and put those two tabs back on, and just snugged this 12mm bolt that holds this little bracket on. I did use like brake grease on the pads, like on the top part right there along that edge and the bottom edge. And then you could put some back here too, where the pistons come into contact with the pad. You might notice one of your pads has this little metal bracket. That's actually supposed to be like your indicator to let you know that you need to replace the brakes, because it'll make it screech really bad on the rotor. As you can see, I put that one on the outside here at the top. Something you guys also might notice is these pads still have a lot of life left, and my dad just felt that it wasn't braking as well. And we use wheel spacers, so it's kind of hard to check the pads with the wheels on. But when I did the brakes, which was, I guess, over 3 years ago, maybe even a little longer, I actually replaced this caliper because one of the pistons was sticking. And when I was doing this passenger right front, I actually had an issue pushing the pistons back. And as you can see, this is a brand new caliper. One of the ways that you can check to see if any of your pistons are like stuck, I guess, is you can take the pads out and everything and then go into the car and push the brake pedal, and you can see which ones are moving and which ones maybe aren't. That's the issue we had on that side that was causing a pretty bad vibration when getting on the brakes. This one seemed like it wasn't working too well because only one of the pistons was moving. The other three weren't really moving at all. So I ended up replacing this caliper. I think that might have been really what the issue was, with my dad feeling like the brakes weren't doing as good as they were. Because we actually just went on a trip to the mountains, and coming down the mountain, we're riding the brakes a lot, and they actually were starting to fade, not even really work as well. I don't know if that could have contributed to the issue as well, but just went ahead and replaced everything, and car will brake like new now. So it's a new day. I was gonna knock out the rear brakes today. Originally, I was gonna make the video of replacing all the brakes, but since the front took a little longer, to keep the videos a little shorter, I figured I'd split them up. So this will just be the front brakes video. If you want to see how to replace the rear brakes, I'll put a link in the description on that video once that's posted. So to end this video, I just wanted to talk about replacing the caliper. Yeah, as y'all saw, I replaced that right front caliper, and yeah, some of the pistons are just seized, and it was causing a loss of like braking ability. To replace the caliper, if you've been following along with replacing the brake pads and the rotor, then you've basically done all the work. The caliper's off. The only thing that's still connected to the caliper is the one brake line that goes right here. So if you do remove that line, you will have fluid leak out of the brake line, but I use this and I wedge this in between the brake pedal and the driver's seat to hold the brake pedal down, or you could just have a friend or family member do that for you, and that will prevent the brake fluid from leaking out of the line. So obviously once you go back together, it's going to be a spongy brake feel because the caliper itself still has air in it. So your bleeder screw over here, you're going to want to crack that loose and have someone pump the pedal for you until you get all the air out of the line and the caliper in particular. I attached this to the bleeder screw. You can just crack the bleeder screw open and do that, but it's nice to have something like this with a hose. So that way when you see the brake fluid going through here, you can also see the air bubbles and have them keep pumping the pedal until you no longer see air bubbles. And then to complete that, I just have them push the pedal down one more time and hold it, and then I tighten the bleeder screw. And that's it pretty much. As far as tightening these two particular things, as you can see, the threads are pretty small. So you just want to be kind of delicate. Don't go super tight because you could mess up the threads on these. And then the other thing I did for the front is the driver's side wheel spacer. I did mess up the threads on one of the studs of the spacer. Last time I had the wheel off, messed up one of the studs when I was going back on with the wheel, and so I literally just hammered out this bad stud from that wheel spacer and then put a new one in. And the way that I actually brought the new stud into place was I put this on a wheel that was on the wheel that was off the car, just put this on behind, and I actually put like 3 lugs like that and just tightened all the lugs down. I used my impact, but I did use a torque stick, so I didn't like go overboard. Then I just took it back off and I kind of just looked to see if it was level, and also looked back here to make sure that it was seated all the way in place. So glad I got that taken care of, because yeah, this one kind of got pretty messed up. I had to replace the lug too because the threads in there also got damaged. So yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for watching. Hopefully this helped some of you who were addressing some of the same issues, replacing the brakes or caliper or anything like that. So yeah, just if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, that helps us out and we appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, which be the rear brakes, I guess. So yeah, see y'all later. Peace.